Hi everyone. I hope you're all doing well with all these planetary changes going on at the moment and actually over the last few years. And yeah, it's been crazy and very overwhelming for most of us. We can see this, in the mundane global world developments and what's going on in the world at the moment. Everything is so chaotic. It feels like going crazy, but as we already know as astrologers, all collective planets are changing signs, shifting from more passive energy of water and earth into more active energies of air and fire. So it's a year, including the next one, of really huge cycles taking place, some of them for the first time in humanity. So yeah, shifts and transformations are something which is meant to be happening at the moment. And because it's really overwhelming for me, including, I decided to make a video which is a little bit more, how do I say, back to basics for all of us. And it's going to, I hope that it will bring back the personal perspective of astrology, and hopefully it will help each of us to understand a bit more of our own charts. And it will make us feel at least a little bit calmer, a little bit safer when it comes to transits and planetary cycles going on, because I can see in social media many comments and many people actually freaking out about a certain aspect going on, a certain transit going on in their chart and forming a hard aspect. And yeah, I think that we should learn to use astrology for growth and not to freak out, not to get into the lower vibration of fear and and insecurities. The idea of astrology, I think, is to actually give us a new perspective, possibly to prepare us for some difficult times, so that we can have the right attitude, when hardships come. So today I would like to make a video that will bring us back to this personal perspective, and that hopefully will give us this shift inside and help us, support us more to use the tool of astrology for something good and to grow. So I decided to share my insights on the chart of Nicholas Galitzine. He's an English actor, a model, a musician whom I came to discover only recently indeed. And he intrigued me not only because he's super talented, but also because he strikes me as being very humble, a very kind, genuine, and authentic person. So his natal chart and his story actually align in such a great way that it made me somehow realize that whatever is meant for us, it will be. And if we don't go after it, it will be again. And whatever was not meant to be, it will never be for us, even if we did everything possible to get it. So I find that his story of becoming an actor is very interesting, and as he himself says, it's actually very surreal. And so today I feel really excited and inspired to present to you a video of exploring his astrological birth chart. So without further ado, let's dive into it. I will share my screen so that you can see his chart while I am discussing it. And in the meantime, I must tell you that we don't actually have his time of birth. So we're going to work on the basic chart without the time of birth, as you can see. And yeah, as you can see, he was born on the 29th of September 1994 in Hammersmith, London, UK. And yeah, um, because the time of birth is not available, I will be looking at the basic chart, as I already said. And we won't, of course, without the time of birth, we won't be having the actual distribution of the houses. However, for all of us, including me, who don't know their time of birth, I hope that it is inspiring to start digging deeper into astrology, because I would like to show you just how much we can actually see in a chart without having the time of birth. And of course, it will not be 100% exact, but still, it will give us so much information. And just for the record, if we don't have the time of birth, we can look at the so-called lunar or solar charts where we put the sun in the solar chart or the moon on the ascendant, and this will also work, but for different purposes. So, nevertheless, to just to show you that we can use the basic chart and see so many things, I decided to work with the basic chart for this video. And yeah, as I will be focusing on the career part in this video, and since we don't have the time of birth and we don't know the actual house cusp, we don't know where the MC falls, the ascendant, the sixth house cusp, and so on, I will be looking at the sun in the chart, as the sun is a general significator of career. And because we don't know the time of birth, I just would like to mention that actually the degree of the sun will be, for 24 hours, the sun moves 1 degree. So it will be between 5 degrees 35 minutes and 6 degrees 35 minutes. I'm just mentioning this just so you know. And the same holds true for the moon. It will be between 16 degrees and between 25 degrees. In Cancer. So, of course, apart from the sun, going back to the sun and to the career path, apart from the sun, there will also be other astrological factors supporting the career path and success. Among others, in his chart, as you can see, he has Venus, Jupiter, and North Node conjunction in Scorpio. He has a whole stellium indeed. So this will be very important for him because Venus is the ruler of the sun. And actually, this will be showing, because the North Node is also participating, that there is some karmic indication and there is some natal promise for having a natural charisma, Venus, and for being widely liked, Jupiter, recognized and favored for one's charm, looks, the sexual energy, all of this represented by Scorpio, the expression of the self, as well as showing vulnerability and having a deep psychological impact onto others. This is because of the Scorpio stellium. So I think that he does this absolutely great as an actor. And I see that this is kind of his mission to awaken, just like a true Scorpio to awaken others and to make them transform their ideas, views, or themselves, to have an impact. So, nevertheless, as I said, in today's video, I will focus on the sun and on the transits related to the sun. Now, as a first step, before we go to the transits, I would like to see how the sun feels in the natal chart, because it's always very important to look at the natal promise so that we have an idea of how, what will be affecting us and how we're going to possibly feel that, and to see what's the natal promise. And the sun in the natal chart of Nicholas Galitzine doesn't feel very well indeed, because it's in Libra, where it's in fall. And depending on the time of birth, I mentioned that the degree will be different, but it's not very strong and doesn't have the strength to follow, to assert itself, because the sun actually, it represents our individuality, who we really are, the vitality, it represents the self. And when it's weak, it could indicate some difficulty to express ourselves, especially when younger. And actually, he mentioned that when he was younger, he was a really shy kid, and he had probably a hard time asserting himself more. And in addition to that, the sun is actually very lonely in the chart. And as you can see, it doesn't have any major aspects. See, no lines here to the sun. And with that, none of the planets in the natal chart actually makes any aspects to the sun. And this means that his sun is unaspected. And this is really, really rare. And this can create a unique dynamic in the person's personality and life expression. Now, in the natal chart, in addition to career, as I already mentioned, the sun represents our identity, the core identity, the self, who we really are, our authenticities, the will, our ambitions, the life purpose. And the sun is our inner authority, and when it doesn't receive any aspects from any other planets in the natal chart, it can indicate a highly unique path, for the person. And because it's not modified, it's not influenced by any other energy in the chart. So it will express itself purely and sometimes some unfiltered, in an unfiltered way. And in the sense of having an unaspected sun, this can make the person incredibly charismatic, as it bestows the ability for powerful and unrestrained self-expression. Um, and I think that's the case of Nicholas Galitzine. I think he has this all, although he probably had to develop to come to this point, and some transits and things, as we will see, might have happened to him so that he can somehow expand the energy and to feel the energy of the sun. Because an unaspected sun could, give the feeling of being both abandoned and very special at the same time. And this can be really confusing. And especially when you are younger, you don't know which way to follow. So, as a matter of fact, by the way, Nicholas Galitzine is the first actor in his family. So this could be one possible manifestation of this specific sun position in the chart, because he's like special, the first, and at the same time unsupported, because no one in his family knows how to support him in his endeavors. Not that he doesn't have the emotional support, but when you are the first one into something, you have to push your way through yourself, and you have to be very determined to do things yourself. Um, However, people with an unaspected sun often feel a strong inner drive to define themselves, and it may take longer to do so, as I already said. And yeah, so definitely this is, the thing that might be creating a feeling of being unseen, or the identity is not easily integrated with the rest of the personalities of the or the life path, and it can give a little bit of a loner or self-focused vibe in the person. And sometimes when I watch the interviews with Nicholas Galitzine, I kind of sense this vibe, especially when he posted many videos of playing songs. It's like the choice of songs, they were always like, I don't know, like expelling this energy of this vibe of, feeling a little bit maybe isolated or deep emotionality. Yeah. And actually, yeah. Now, because the sun doesn't have strong dignity in Libra, as I already said, it just has a hard time to shine and could result in great shyness and difficulty to assert yourself and find your spot in the world, especially when the person is younger, as I already mentioned. And yeah, these are actually traits that Nicholas Galitzine shared in interviews, where he mentioned he was a very shy and sensitive kid indeed. By the way, I will put links into the description of the video with some of the resources which I used during my research of his career path. And if you are interested, you can just, click on them and read some articles or watch some videos with him. Now, there is a lot more to be said here, and but I will not focus on the personal characteristics at all, because we don't have the person's feedback. So it's kind of impossible to know how this played out for Nicholas Galitzine. And yeah, so I will focus mostly on the career path and the individual professional development, which is represented by the sun's placement, as I said. So having no major aspects to the sun actually makes any other aspect, a minor one, very important. And if we, have a more careful look at Nicholas Galitzine's chart, we will see that actually Saturn makes 150-degree aspect to the sun. And this is the so-called quincunx aspect. And this is thought to be one of the most important minor aspects. And even some astrologers I know work with this aspect as a major aspect, and they always check for any quincunxes going on in people's charts because, yeah, they're really important. And you know, a quincunx is generally classified as neither a harmonious nor a hard aspect, and it is not said to be creating any tension at all. It indicates the potential that is difficult to realize because the two planets actually they don't have anything in common. Absolutely, not in the same modality, not in the same element. It's totally different from one another. And one of the keywords, strangely enough, for the quincunx is actually the word surreal. And this is a word which Nicholas Galitzine uses so often to describe his luck and chance in career, and including his interest into acting and the participation into movies more often than not alongside, Oscar-winning actors. And yeah, if I if I can picture this, through a story so that you can better understand the importance of this aspect specifically in his chart, because the sun doesn't receive any other aspects from any other planets in his chart. I would say it's like the sun is driving a car, imagine, and all the other planets are traveling in another car next to it. And in the other car there is Venus, like a beautiful girl, or Mercury, her sibling, the moon representing the mom, let's say, and Jupiter representing the father, the godfather, the husband, or some male guru teacher figure. And they are all driving next to the car that the sun drives, and they wave and want to communicate with the sun, but it's actually the sun doesn't notice them at all. And actually the sun doesn't speak their language at all, so whatever they try to say, the sun doesn't understand. And where is Saturn in the picture? Saturn is in the sun's car on the back seat, and unfortunately, it doesn't speak the sun's language either, but at least they're together, in the car. And Saturn speaks the same language as all these other planets because Saturn is in Pisces. Scorpio is a water sign just like Pisces. So all the other planets, and the moon is in water signs, and corresponds well with Capricorn, where we have Uranus and Neptune. So all the other planets in his chart speak one language, and the sun speaks another language. And Saturn kind of appears to be as the translating energy between the sun and all the other planets in the chart. And just like all the other planets waving from the other car, and Saturn understanding them, making the sun to put the effort to lower the wind, to open the car windows and to start a conversation, maybe learn to communicate with gestures, and motivate the sun to start this dialogue, and like give it the courage somehow also to start the conversation, and maybe to start learning. That's what Saturn is, to push us to make an effort to develop and to become better, to gain experience, to become the masters. So Saturn is pushing the sun, and maybe something happens with this Uranus here, an accident or whatever, and all the planetary energies meet when and this will be represented by some kind of an aspect through transits to the sun by Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, and any other collective planet, or Saturn. So these difficulties that the planets have together, at one point they will merge into one, because the sun will be pushed by Saturn, the only having the only aspect to the sun, to learn, to develop, so that it can become an authority, so that it can show its dignity, its brilliance, its leadership, and of course its generosity as well, because the sun is very generous. And yeah. There are so many things I would like to say about this chart that it becomes a little bit overwhelming for me, guys. So I hope you forgive me, but I'm very emotional and I might be a little bit chaotic here and there. But yeah, I hope that it will be a useful video anyway. So now, as it's impossible to look at all the, the planetary um, cycles and all the things that are going on in the chart and all, to go through in detail every single important time point into Nicholas Galitzine's life, and I mean the professional development. I will only take a few time points, and I will only look at them to illustrate specifically how the Sun-Saturn cycle actually supported Nicholas Galitzine's career and helped him shape his path as it actually pushed the sun to shine. It pushed the sun to gain the experience. It pushed the sun into this specific direction, which is represented by Libra. Libra is all about art. Libra is all about harmony. Libra is all about being with others. It's all about relationships. It's about aesthetics. It's about spreading your charm and, being diplomatic and being able to represent different types of relationships, because Libra is all about relationships. And I think that through these points that I chose to represent to you today, you will be able to see how actually these um, transits of Saturn to the Sun manifested to make him grow. And of course, this will be first, I'll start with the conjunction, then I will go through some other time points, and then the square, the trine, all the major aspects, the Saturn return, which is really important, and then the forthcoming opposition of Saturn to the Sun. Okay, so for those of you who don't know the story of Nicholas Galitzine, let me give you a short overview of how and when things started and took off for him as an actor, and then we will look into his chart and see how it was affected during these specific time periods. So he made his first debut in The Beat Beneath My Feet, filmed in 2013, and it was released in 2014 when he was 20 years old. But I picked a time point which is a little bit back in time, when he was in his last high school years, and he was strongly invested in sports, by the way, and he was considering becoming a professional athlete. He was a rugby player. And however, he ended up getting concussed and with muscle injuries, so he had to kind of leave the idea of becoming a professional athlete, and he lost his fascination about sports, as he said in an interview. And this happened around the age of 16, 17. This is 2010, 2011. As you will see, this was actually a blessing in disguise, and I truly believe this. In an interview with York Vision, which was published in 2015. By the way, there will be a link under the videos. If you want, you can go through the whole interview. He shares that his initial foray into acting began with a school production in 2011, 2012. And this led him to a role he played at the play at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August 2013. And there he was quickly scouted by an agency and got the lead role in the first movie he played in. And this all happened within like a few months' time. But of course, there was this history before that. So, yeah. As a start, let's have a look at the chart to see what was going on at the time he got the injuries, and how and when he lost actually the fascination for sports and kind of decided not to pursue this career. And this was in 2010, end of 2010, 2011, as I said. And here, as you can see, this is his natal chart, and these are the transits for this specific time frame. And yeah, no surprise, the transiting Saturn was in Libra, and it was in an exact conjunction to his sun. And yeah, it was, when we have Saturn on conjuncting the Sun, this is a really this is the beginning of of the cycle first between Sun and Saturn, because this is actually when the two planetary energies meet and they kind of share information. And Saturn is the planet of karma, as we know, and Saturn could bring back, uh, if we kind of lost the way, if we're not on the right path, Saturn will bring difficulties and hardship and obstacles to test if the path that we chose is actually the one that we want. And yeah, it created these difficulties for him actually. And practically made this decision to give up sports. And the Sun, actually, in the chart, it rules the consciousness, it rules the vision, it rules the heart function, the vitality, the whole body, and the life force energy. So, from a psychological perspective, the Sun is the nucleus of the chart, and it rules our identity and the authentic self, as I mentioned. So, practically, Saturn brought all these challenges, all these hardships, and all these restrictions. Yeah, it created some kind of you know difficulties so that he can really see if he wants to do that. So yeah, generally what we can see going on into the chart at the time he was like 16, 17 years old, Saturn caused restriction and prevented him from evolving into a career of sports. And although it must have been a really difficult and hard time for him, yeah, what I meant to show you, it was actually meant to be, because, by the time Saturn left the sign of Libra, by the way, in 2012, um, yeah, he decided to move away from sports. And yeah, this is probably when the decision was made. Um, Yeah, now let's have a look uh, at the next chart. Let me show at the next chart, which is, yeah, this is in 2000, this is the end of 2011, when actually Saturn was making a conjunction to the progress sun. So I really believe that he must have made the decision to give up sports and to move forward with something else. Maybe he didn't know what yet, but yeah, he actually, yeah, the decision must have been done back then in 2011, 2012. And this is what he actually shares vaguely in interviews. No firm dates, but he shares ages. So yeah, I assume that's enough for the videos and for looking at the transits. The next time point I picked to look at was his participation at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which took place between the 3rd and 13th of August 2013. Here is the chart for it. Yes, that's August 2013. And even though Saturn, this is right at the beginning when Saturn entered the sign of Scorpio, and it will be going through the sign like for 2 years and a half, as we know, because it's a slow moving planet. So Saturn will be making conjunctions to all his planets in Scorpio, but it hasn't made the conjunctions yet. And something really important going on at the chart at this very moment, and why I picked to look at this, not only because I was curious to see what was going on, but he has his nodal return. And this is a really, really important moment, because, and how does this trigger his career? The nodes are usually related to the life path anyway, but the nodal return happens in a conjunction with Venus, and Venus is the ruler of his sun. So whatever happens to Venus, it always will reflect uh, to the sun. So again, it will have an effect to the career path. And North Node is a little bit of this energy, like fake it till you make it. And actually, he wasn't sure whether he would like to participate into this play, and he shares that the day, or on the day that he had to play at the festival, he called his dad, and he had a huge imposter syndrome, and he wanted to give up and not to show. But his father actually supported him greatly, and we're grateful to his father, because otherwise he wouldn't have been scouted and wouldn't have got his role into acting and his way into acting indeed. So I wanted to share this story just to show you that with the notes, it's usually whatever's meant to be, it will be. And yeah, the nodal return, which happens for him at this time, actually, this is a time when we gain clarity about what we want to do. You know, it can, it's like a stepping stone. It's a kind of a moment where we um, actually have this growth, and it's a fake it till you make it energy, even though we can be really scared about what's going on at the moment, and you might feel very, very uncomfortable. It's actually, yeah, usually it's actually events that will kind of shape your future, your path in life, and it's a very pivotal moment. And yeah, it's also a very important moment to evaluate the past and any attachments to the past. And it's a time where we also change our worldview, our view of ourselves as well. It gives new perspectives into life, reevaluates our values, and um, also it gives, because it's in conjunction to Jupiter, which is the long-term goals, it gives a total reevaluation of the long-term goals. And we have this very strong idea and feeling, and it can be actually very overwhelming, but still we have this urge to, to we create a totally new vision of what life should be about, and we kind of get in touch with what we want to achieve in life in the long term. And yeah, we get a very nice perspective of where we are at the moment, and what has been offered to us so far is actually makes us feel satisfied. And if not, there are chances where we can change that, and it's a totally new direction for us. And yeah, it's a point of realizations of a lot of, you know, a lot of our values, vision for the future, and yeah, who we want to be and where we want to move forward to. And yeah, as I mentioned, Saturn will be conjuncting Venus, Jupiter, and the North Node at one point in Scorpio. So this will be, Saturn is the master. Saturn creates difficulties. It makes you feel probably inadequate about something. And as he mentioned during the filming of his first movie, actually he played along with the late Luke Perry. And he mentioned that he didn't know absolutely anything about movie making. He didn't know any terminology. And when he was on set, it was actually Luke Perry was like a father figure to him, and he introduced him to everything related to movies. And Saturn actually represents authority figures, father figures, and it represents experience and learning. And yeah, actually, this conjunction to Venus and activating the sun, it made it difficult for Nicholas. Maybe he felt inadequate. He felt very insecure. And he was afraid probably to go and do that. He mentions that he felt like he had no idea what he was doing there, but at the same time, it pushed him to, to acquire new skills, to put his talents into action, and to have this discipline to overcome his fears, and actually to work on his growth. And again, it's Saturn brought some reevaluation of values. This is Venus, and long-term goals, which is Jupiter. It was another moment for reconsideration of the vision of the for the future for him. And probably he was able to see this now through a more realistic Saturn rules being realistic, so a more realistic lens indeed. So generally, when Nicholas Galitzine was between 17 and 20 years old, this is 2011, 2014 years old, there were many, many intense transits going on into his chart. And um, apart from Saturn transiting through Scorpio, this happened between 6th of October 2012 and December 2014. So this is a good 2 years, 2 years and a half. And it affected all his planets, as I already said through a conjunction. So it must have been difficult. But at the same time, he was going on. Uranus was in Aries. As you can see, it was practically opposing his Sun. And this happened in 2012 somewhere until September 2012, March 2013, and it was, a very strong aspect, the opposition to his Sun, because I checked, and actually Uranus became stationary at the exact degree of his Sun somewhere, because we don't know the exact degree of the Sun, but it became stationary at 6 degrees, and it will be very close to his Sun. So it was a time for really for an upgrade, for changes, for huge changes, and these changes happened, as we know, unexpectedly, like an earthquake, So they just came in, and he had to deal with it and go with the flow. And at the same time, Pluto was squaring the Sun the whole of 2011 and 2012 from Capricorn. And that's, as you can see, it's all the collective planets practically making aspects to his Sun and triggering the Sun. Like, it was time for him to wake up and to be shaken up a little bit, to go out of his shell and to show his potential, to share it with others, to be in relationships and to gain experience. And actually, yeah, it was a very pivotal moment in his life. Of course, there was also support, because while Saturn was transiting the sign of Scorpio, it made trines to all his planets in water signs, which is the Moon and Mars, and also it made the trine to Saturn in Pisces. So it might have been really difficult, and Saturn, the conjunction to all his planets in Scorpio, probably created some, him to freak out and to feel really insecure and feel inadequate at times. But still, at the same time, Saturn, through the trines to the Moon, to Mars, to the natal Saturn, and thus activating the Sun, indeed, through this only aspect that he has in the chart, it gave him this discipline, having the discipline to acquire the new skills with diligence and passion, and allowing him to express and release pent up emotions, and especially to release and to find a more constructive way to deal with pent up emotions, and especially fears. Because Saturn is the planet of wisdom, it's the planet of maturity, it's the planet of growth. And as I said, although this was a really challenging period leading to maturation and inner growth, it helped him build resilience and discipline and a whole new vision for the future. And I forgot to mention Saturn's cycles, they are 28, 29 years long. So whatever happens on a Saturn transit, it is here to stay. So the conjunction to the Sun back in 2010, 2011, and him giving up sports and taking up on acting and performing in front of others, actually this here to stay for him. Saturn will kind of nail it there. And yeah, you know, that's all I wanted to say for this time period. And actually, I wanted to mention that the last aspect of Saturn to Pluto in his chart, it happened on the 19th. Let me check in my notes. It happened on the 19th of November 2014, and actually, it was very shortly after he made his film debut in The Beat Beneath My Feet. And yeah, it's no coincidence, I must say. Um, the movie, by the way, it received good recognition, great recognition, and it was a success. And nevertheless, Nicholas Galitzine shared in an interview with Teen Vogue that the first time he actually felt perceived as an actor, and he felt perceived as, as a part of this community, he felt like this was a notable shift to him, was when he went to the Griffoni Film Festival in Italy, and he was a guest there on the 17th, 18th of July 2016. And so this is the next time point I would like to have a look at, 17th of July 2016, and let's have a look what happened there in the chart and see why he felt so perceived at this time point. So there is something really, really important going on in the chart, and this is Pluto opposing the moon. And Saturn is making a sextile to the sun. So as a part of the Sun-Saturn cycle, this is actually a harmonious aspect where the sun gets triggered to be well perceived and seen, and have like a very nice self-expression, have the tools to feel really appreciated and loved. And at the same time, Pluto was opposing the moon. Now, we don't know the exact degrees of the moon, but due to this moment that he shares about during this festival in Italy, I really come to think that he might be born a little bit earlier in the day, maybe even at night, because the moon will be at an earlier degree here to have an exact opposition. And why I focus so much on Pluto in this specific case, because Pluto rules psychology, it rules power, it rules us feeling empowered, it rules inner strength, and also Pluto rules our deepest fears. And at the same time, the moon rules our instincts, our emotions, our deepest sense of security. And moon, by the way, is also it also rules fame and popularity. And during a Pluto opposition to the natal moon, we come to feel inner power and desire to take control, because Pluto rules control over our emotions, over our own life, the moon. And because it's an opposition aspects are always involved with other people. It's like there are always two parties participating. And that's why, so he went to this festival, he met with many people, with fans and people who fancied him, and he felt really the power that he had. And that's where he actually felt so visible, and he felt this notable shift within him, probably because this energy was a part of this power that he felt, the power of the masses, so to say, which were there to support him. And he actually was able to see how this manifested, how people, the real manifestation in the material world, the real thing he was able to see. And because Saturn was making a sextile to the sun, it was perceived in a very positive way as well. Uh, Another very important thing I would like to mention is the chart's progression. Uh, and as you can see, the natal Mercury, which is at 1 degree 51 minutes in Scorpio, actually turned retrograde at one point in his life, and it ingressed into Libra. And at this specific time point, when he was at the festival in Italy in 2016, actually the Sun was conjunct to the minute with the progressed Mercury. And this is a very, very important moment, because Mercury rules communication. It also is related to how we communicate with others, to our self-expression, to the mindset, to the voice. It's connected to the style that we have when we communicate. And the sun is our identity, as I already mentioned many times. It's our authenticity, and it represents the soul's expression and purpose. And actually, when the two planets met back then, it was a new cycle. Practically, it was the sun who felt so visible, and maybe he was really, really able to get access to this, you know, nucleus, so to say, to his true essence, to his most authentic part and most authentic self. And it was probably very viable. And yeah, he must have felt it really strong, yeah, to really remember this moment and feel this notable shift within him so as to share it even in an interview. And yeah, that's really an important moment. For the next moment that I chose to have a look at, and this will be the Saturn squaring from Capricorn to the Sun. I would like to show you something. This is IMBD. This is where you can see some information about the actor, and for many actors indeed, but I opened the page here to Nicholas Galitzine specifically so that I can show you. He participated in practically one movie each year, and there was a kind of a gap here. As you can see, there are no movies that he participated in or that were released with his participation in 2018. And I am moving on to the chart now so you can see in 2018, actually, between January and November, he had the, transiting Saturn squaring to the sun. So again, this is a part of this cycle of getting better, of gaining experience, of, you know, having the discipline. It's like a checkpoint again to see whether you want to be doing what you are doing. It's a checkpoint through some difficulties, through some restrictions, because that's Saturn, of course, but through, it's a very powerful aspect, and it usually generates tension. It's a hard aspect. It's 90 degrees. It's like the sun wants to get expressed, and it's always like, no way, no way, no way. And it's lots of obstacles and setbacks, and they usually, lead us to our destiny. And um, it may be felt especially difficult and hard if we don't want to grow up, and if we kind of have this resistance. And yeah, if we don't want to replace the fun with work and obligations and responsibilities, then it's going to be felt really hard. But yeah, practically we don't know how he felt, but from the facts we can just, think that maybe it was a really difficult time, hard. Maybe there were some personal hardships that he went through that prevented him from participating in castings and, like, having some roles in movies. But definitely, this was a time period which required focus, diligence, commitment, acquiring new skills, getting in touch with himself, with his essence, asking all the, difficult questions, and like having this like a checkpoint on what you would like to do, and do you like what you're doing, or having a more realistic perspective of where you're heading. Yeah. So the purpose of this aspect, though, because this is, Saturn creates difficulties and restrictions. This is lack of something when in a hard aspect. And any hard aspect, it's a huge force. It's like I showed you, it's a 90-degree angle. So it's a huge force where you get more and more ambitious, and you feel motivated to improve, and you build your inner strength. But it takes time, resilience, it takes willpower to assert yourself practically, because otherwise it could lead to some kind of a depression, like feeling lost, not knowing what to do, and not doing anything at all. And what I have seen often, it causes some of both. Is some of both. At one point you are depressed, at one point you feel really, really ambitious and like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and making decisions. But still it will be like a seesaw a little bit, like getting you, throwing you up and down a little bit. But yeah, because it's difficult, it can create huge frustration and a feeling of being unable to assert our authority, superiority, to attain a better position in whatever we're doing, and being seen. Yeah, it could feel like we're out of control about things. And yeah, but once we go through this period, then we will see how we integrated huge resilience, survival. We had our experience and feel much more secure, know ourselves better, know what we can do and what we can't do, know what we are willing to do and what we are not willing to do. It's like after this transit is over, practically we have more choice because we come to know ourselves much more. And there is something else going on in the chart apart from the square aspect to the natal sun, which I really think is very, very important for Nicholas Galitzine, and maybe it was also contributing to these difficulties and to trying to assert yourself, to see yourself, and your vision for the future. And this was that the sun was the progress sun, the green one here, was at the last degree of Libra, and it actually entered the sign of Scorpio, where here this was a moment when he probably began to feel much more visible, and it was much more easier for him to get into the energy of the sun, of the self. So yeah, I really think this was a very, very, very important moment of reconciliation, reconsidering, renegotiating terms with others, but also very much within himself, and setting his rules and knowing what he's willing and what he's not willing to do, and like having a long-term plan and what he wants to achieve, because Saturn in Capricorn is in rulership, so it was very strong, and it can be very assertive, and it can be very triggering to really work on what you want. So in his case, this was possibly the time when he had to face the rough reality of what it takes to succeed as an actor. And he mentions in some of his interviews actually that he had to work as a waiter, as a shop assistant, an ice cream maker, or something like this in an ice cream shop. And to make the ends meet, actually, he needed money. And probably this was a time when he questioned all his choices. And it's, the most important thing, he didn't give up. And his aspirations, he kind of respected them. And when Saturn went out of Capricorn and left his sun in peace finally, it gave him the reward of getting, and yeah, he started to get into roles. As you can see here in IMBD, 2019, 2020, The Craft Legacy. 2021, he played in Cinderella, the male lead role. He was the prince, and he sang the full soundtrack of the movie, and he played with Camila Cabello. And yeah, this is something huge. So practically, I will move on now to 2021, just to have a look at what was going on in the chart back then, and to see why he kind of started getting into roles and lead roles with prominent actors who actually made him, when you play with someone who is very prominent, you yourself look better on screen because you play with huge professionals. And actually in 2000, as you can see, in 2021, in October, Saturn was trining the Sun. So the trine is a much more harmonious aspect than the square, and actually lots of changes. It's a trigger for lots of changes related to career, to the profession. And because it's a trine, it's a harmonious energy. It's the changes that you want, actually, changes that you're willing to integrate in your daily routine, into your life, into your lifetime. And yeah, it was a much better, more harmonious period of his lifetime. And now, of course, because Saturn is in Aquarius, and during the time it was in Aquarius, it was squaring the all the Scorpio planets here. Um, it must have been, again, it's a bittersweet feeling, like having a lot of things to do, being chosen into lead roles, but not immediately. He had to work for that. Maybe he had to go to many castings, and yeah, and he had to apply for many roles, and maybe he was rejected for some of them, and yeah, but still Saturn made him break through in a way. um okay, so yeah, let me just have a look at the IMDb. Yeah, I wanted to mention about Purple Hearts, because Purple Hearts, this movie was filmed somewhere between August and October 2021. And this is exactly when Saturn was making the trine to the Sun. And the movie was released globally in 2022, as you can see here. But it was, by the way, if you want to watch it and haven't seen it yet, it's on Netflix. It's great. I recommend it. But upon its release in 2022, Purple Hearts, it became one of most Netflix most watched films of 2022. And let me just have a look at my notes. It was insane. It was amassing over 2028 million viewing hours within the first few weeks, guys. So it was a huge success. And this is no surprise for me, because Saturn was transiting through the sign of Aquarius at the time, and it was making a trine aspect, as we saw here. So yeah, the relationship between the two planets again played a very significant role, and it helped him, supported him to become visible, successful, to be his own self, and yeah, to kind of put his experience and his all the qualities that he gained during the harder aspects into action, and to become visible and seen. Um, Lastly, I would like to have a look at what has been going on with the chart over the last 2, 3 years. This is a chart for the 6th of February 2024, and why the reason why I am looking into this. Now, as you can see, in 2024, there were 3 movies. Actually, one of them was a mini series, but 2023, 2024, after Purple Hearts, indeed, there are so many movies, all of them, as you can see, with very high rating, and all of them very successful, which made him really, really prominent and very famous. And yeah, and now, the reason I would like to look at 2024, indeed, when he really breaks through, it's an absolute breakthrough for him the last 2, 3 years. Great recognition, uh, you know, for all the movies. So this is when he had his Saturn return. And again, the Saturn return actually repeated the aspect to the Sun. And the Sun is related to career, to professional growth, to the visibility, to ourself, to identity, to the image, and getting closer to who I am. And practically, as you know, Saturn return happens, I think I mentioned it, it happens only once in about 28 to 30 years. And the whole transit lasts about a year, but it's very grounding, and it's a period of self-reflection and letting go of any unrealistic expectations. And it's a turning point for our social status. And because Saturn is the planet of karma, practically whatever happened at the time of the conjunction to the sun, because it repeats the only aspect to the sun, that's why I'm mentioning the conjunction, it will kind of manifest during the Saturn return because it repeats the aspect, and it will be like a moment, the moment of truth. Did I work? Did I develop? Did I grow? And it will be seen in gaining popularity, in changing social status, in the career development, and also in relationships in general. Um, Here, as I mentioned, especially because it forms the only aspect to his sun. The Saturn return made him focus on his long-term goals and creating a total new vision. Um, yeah, it was probably a moment of realization of what he really wants. And in some of the interviews, I heard him, recent interviews, by the way, I heard him say like he has a plan, he has like a wish list, which actors he would like to play in movies with. And yeah, so he has a vision of himself already. And because the Saturn return highlights our weaknesses and our strengths, it tells us what we can rely on and what we have to part with because it no longer serves us. Um, it is a moment where it can go either way. As I mentioned, it depends on how many efforts we put and whether we actually excelled and gained the experience that we needed to break through. And in his case, obviously he did because he really made it. So here, because Saturn is the planet of karma, generally at the time of the Saturn return, he was able to reap what he sowed, and specifically for him, this was a reward for all his hard work that he did so far. And with Saturn, however, nothing comes for free, by the way, and so any growth comes as new and bigger responsibilities, and as you will, yeah, as you can see here, these are the upcoming movies that he's going to take part in. And as you can see, there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is one more, which is the second part of Red, White, and Royal Blue. So as you can see, this generated a lot of work for him, and yeah, practically well deserved. That's all I can say. Now, uh, the next thing, and this will be practically the last thing related to Saturn that I would like to have a look at. This is the forthcoming opposition of Saturn to his natal Sun. This is the chart for the opposition. I hope you can see it well, guys. Where is it? Okay, Saturn is in Aries and the Sun is in Libra. Okay, I got a little bit tired, I guess, because the video seems to be getting a little bit longer than I expected. But anyway, I would like to share everything I planned. So yeah, I hope I don't get you bored, but I really want to show you how we should be looking at transits. It's not like a cookbook astrology where you look what happens when Saturn makes a square to the Sun. Yeah, there were some general signification, some general ideas that you can get an idea, but how specifically it will play out in your chart, you need to look at the whole cycle. You need to see what topics were triggered at the time of the conjunction, then at the sextile, what happened, did you work, didn't you work, and yeah, anything that happens actually that manifests is a kind of a feedback to us whether we were on the right path, whether we did the right things, and whether we did the made choices. And every hard aspect, especially, it gives us a chance to renegotiate also within ourselves, our ideas, to renegotiate the terms of how we think about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, what we want to let go, and so on and so on. Okay, so let's go back to the opposition aspect of transiting Saturn to his Sun. That will happen, as you can see in April 2026, but it will because of the retrograde motion of Saturn, it will continue between April and November 2026. So it will be active then. And as I showed you, there are like two movies, in one in production, He-Man, I'm looking forward to it, and one in post-production. So it's coming out soon in 2026. So they will probably come out at the time of the Saturn opposition to the Sun, and the opposition, it's like a full moon energy. This is related to whatever started, like during the conjunction, which is like a new moon, like starting something new, initiating something new. The opposition is like the full moon energy, um, where it will bring to fruition all the projects that were initiated so far. And it will give like a full idea, like it will allow for all the work done to be seen, to become more and more visible. And being the last visible planet in the sky, I talk about Saturn, it manifests in the material realm uh, reciprocally all the efforts we made. So if we worked hard, it will objectively bring into the material realm our hopes and our dreams. And as an opposition is also related to relationships, it will also change um, what will come through for others and through others. So whatever happens, it will happen through others, which is like, oh, his fans are others, but also maybe in the movie industry, he will get more and more recognized. This is Saturn, and he will get to step into his own authority and will become more visible because um, the full moon phase practically and this opposition of Saturn to the Sun, it's about embracing some oppositions, a duality between two opposite themes, and it's like trying to strike a balance there, being ambitious, being between Aries and Libra, like between being too ambitious and overworking yourself or allowing yourself. My voice is going away already. Sorry, guys, but I lost my train of thought. Sorry. So um, yeah, you need to be able to strike a balance during the opposition between being too ambitious, which will be represented by the energy of Aries, and also being, to letting go of everything, all responsibilities and stuff. And you will need to find this work-life balance probably. And also the Sun rules vitality, as I mentioned. So with the opposition of Saturn to the Sun, there has to be also this balance of how he uses his energy, because otherwise he might feel really, really exhausted, and maybe he will take some time off of work in order to relax a little bit more and to enjoy life a little bit more, I think. And also, this opposition could be talking about having too hard limits or too soft limits, boundaries, I mean, too hard boundaries, too soft boundaries. It will be a moment of adjusting those. And yeah, generally, it will be the purpose of it will be to become your own authority. Instead of, with an unaspected sun, and you could be looking for external authority to bring order and discipline to you. And with the opposition and with all the transits of Saturn to the Sun, but especially with the opposition because it represents other people involved. And so you practically could become your own authority, your own boss, and start being, the rebel at any injustice that happens to you. But it's the way that you perceive it. So during the opposition, maybe there will be this mind shift, and finally he will be able to rest into his own energy and to rest into his authority and become, experiencing himself more like an authority in the, in the industry, in the movie circles. I believe that he might also be receive some award as well, because the opposition, as I said, it's a moment of manifesting and a moment of fruition. It's like a full moon. So yeah, I really think this will be a very important moment for his career development. Um, Okay, and one more thing, during the Saturn opposition to the Sun, as you can see, the North Node will be exactly conjunct Saturn, the natal Saturn, and again, repeating this only aspect to the Sun. So I really think, because the North Node is karmic again, it brings things that unexpected, but something that you crave for, something that you're ravenous for. And maybe this will really be a moment where, when he gets really recognized, yeah, within the industry, and he gets a huge breakthrough with all the roles that he played. I hope he doesn't get too exhausted, and yeah, I hope he gets rest and allows himself to get rest as well, because that will be important. Luckily, Jupiter will be in Cancer, and it will be supporting the moon, the emotions. It will be trining practically all his planets in Scorpio over the next whole year, and it will be trining Saturn. So there will be much support from higher circles, from people who have like the same long-term goals, and yeah, from godfather figures, and maybe from God himself. Not maybe, God is always behind us, but yeah, Jupiter will be supporting, which is very nice. Or maybe from some female figures, mother figures as well, because the moon is practically the mother. Or maybe he will feel really supported by going back to his roots, like or changing place of living. And here, maybe he will be able to enjoy some time with his family and allow himself the rest that he might need, actually, after so much work. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is one more which is not listed yet, because there is no, maybe production hasn't started yet. So yeah. Let's see. There was one last chart I wanted to share, but I feel a little bit tired already. But okay, I will share it just to show you that between because we don't know the time of birth, it can be actually a little bit earlier or a little bit later than end of 2029, because of the moon degree. But still, he will have, in like 4 years, 4 years time, he will have his new moon, the progress new moon. And oh God, it will be Sun and Moon for the new moon, but it will be together with Venus and Jupiter, guys. So it sounds to me like, like winning an Oscar. It sounds really big to me. So I really wanted to share this with you, because the progress new moon is a very important moment in life, where you start something new, you start your self-perception. Venus rules the sun as well. So your self-perception, and who you are, where you want to be going to. Jupiter is also there. So it seems like very, very karmic, and it seems like two benefics with the moon and the sun. It seems like all the gods gathered at a conference to discuss something they really love, to discuss a new, you know, a new beginning, and something huge, probably, and which will be there to stay for the next 29 years as well, because it's a new Jupiter cycle, which is a 12-year cycle. So some long-term goal that he will start following, probably, and at the same time a 29-year cycle, like for the next 29 years, until the next 29, 30 years, until the next new moon. There will be this prominence here, something going on in 2029. I'm looking forward to it, to tell you the truth, guys. I am really, really excited about him. He's really talented. If you don't know him, have a look at him. He has great movies, great roles. I really recommend watching. At least he participated in the idea of You along Anne Hathaway, a great movie with a great soundtrack that he actually recorded the soundtrack for 2 days. He went to Sweden and worked there, and he recorded all the songs for 2 days, guys. He's extremely talented, really. I highly recommend watching at least, the idea of You marrying George, a great miniseries. He's so versatile. All his roles are so different, and all of them so triggering. In Red, White, and Royal Blue, he actually plays gay, and wow, a great a great movie. I recommend to everyone. It's a light movie, but at the same time, it talks about very serious topics, and in the background, it actually helps you shift your perspective about things. At least this is what the movie did to me. So yeah, I highly recommend this. Okay, guys, I think this is all from me. And in conclusion, I just want to highlight again how important it is to look at the whole chart, at the natal promise, and not only at one specific aspect and freak out. And it's important to realize how everything is related, that it's a part of a grand cycle, of a bigger cycle. And to be able to understand how a specific aspect plays out into your chart, you need to go back in time and see what happened at the time of the conjunction, what happened at the checkpoints, uh, through the other major aspects. Like after the conjunction, we have the sextile. After the sextile, we have the square. After the square, we have the trine. Then we have the opposition, and then the aspects repeat again, but then they're in the closing circle, so they will be more subtle, and you will be more aware of how to actually work them out. And yeah, I hope this video was interesting to you, and let me know in the comments below if you would like me to make more videos of this type, or what kind of topics would be interesting for you. And I will, make my research and try to give you what you want and what you need. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. If you like the video, remember to press like, to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thank you so much for being with me. And I hope you really liked and enjoyed the video. Bye, everyone.